Sure, you can go to the next slide. Okay. Jalen Patel is a 16-year-old entrepreneur, aspiring data scientist, and tech business owner, and a high school senior. He's currently the founder and CEO of Fly High, co-founder and CEO of Bits and Bytes, VP of Finance of DECA at a school, and Vice President Technology of a school's ASB Executive Council, while also taking rigorous classes. Shreya, feel free. Nick Kimble motivates and rallies others to make a positive, peaceful, and purposeful change in our society. Nick is an aspiring human rights lawyer educating members of the Edison Civic Change Collective on the rich history of movements and activism behind issues like voting rights, education inequality, gender inequity, and police brutality. He is creating legislative changes to prompt civic education access for students in New Jersey, with legislative bills S854 and S237. Good to see you, Nick. Naomi Porter is a 16-year-old serial entrepreneur, education reform advocate, and public speaker from LA. She is the CEO of two businesses, Spice It Up and Bright Futures. Naomi founded entrepreneurship in 2019 to provide free entrepreneurial education to youth. Her organization has served over 2,000 youth through over 45 workshops that equip youth with an entrepreneurial mindset. Most recently, her advocacy and entrepreneurial work has been featured in Forbes, Voyage LA magazine, oh, I was featured there too, and Wharton Business. She manages a team of over 70 youth from 24 countries. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I'm so excited to speak with you. And I was about to say something, but then I forgot. You guys are so cool. Like, all of you are activists and social entrepreneurs. So we're gonna get into that a little bit today. And we're looking forward to hearing you speak. So Shreya, you can take it from here.
Awesome. So I'm just going to be interviewing you guys and asking you a couple of questions about your various experiences, and we'd be so happy to hear and learn from you guys. So the first question, how did you get into activism or entrepreneurship? And you guys can just unmute and talk.
I guess I can start off with this first question. For me, my first sense of activism came from my school. One of the programs that we had at my school was called the Edison Referendum Committee, where a number of students weren't getting enough educational resources needed for their community. And I was given the opportunity to just volunteer, simply going to do canvassing door to door at different houses, knocking on doors, trying to share different information with people. And from that experience, I started learning more about other people's struggles. I started learning that there's things bigger than just me and my community, that there's issues that have reached far spanning from not just my state, but the other 50 states of America.
Absolutely. It's definitely very important to be aware about bigger issues and really relate. And it's really nice that you were able to go out and see that firsthand. Does anyone else have anything to share?
I guess I'll go next. So hi, everyone. I'm Naomi, and I really started activism and entrepreneurship specifically out of a necessity. And I think that similar to a lot of the activists on this panel and that you've heard of recently, is it started out of not only a personal passion, but also that combined with great needs in our modern world. There are so many goals, and I think Rida can attest to, we're both SDG advocates, and so a lot of our work aligns with that. And so for me, with entrepreneurship, I noticed a lack of affordable entrepreneurial education courses in my area, but not only in my area, but also globally. And so now we have a team from over 24 countries, which shows the depth to this issue is that students aren't being taught what they need to be learning in schools. We're taught algebra, calculus, Shakespearean sonnets, and novels. But when you get into the real world, it's not all about who has the highest test scores or who can write the most persuasive essay. It's about who can solve real world issues. And that's where entrepreneurship comes in. And so that's why I started entrepreneurship, to provide a different pathway on the secondary level.
No, absolutely. I love how you saw that need that needed to be addressed and decided to take action and really try to solve that problem yourself. Like that's so commendable. Anybody else have anything to share?
Sure, I'll go ahead. So for me, activism started when I was in grade six. I always wanted to be a social activist. So it all started, when I saw people who weren't able to solve issues around them. And, as just Naomi said, that we need people to solve global challenges. And that is like really important to create a sustainable future, not just for us, but also for the future generations. So I understood that, Gen Z played a very significant role when talking about solving the global challenges. And I've always felt that Gen Z doesn't wait for the future, they build the future. So for me, the activism started when I joined Interact Club, which was under the part of Rotary International. It's an international organization which focuses on community service. So for me, it started in all in school, and I was very much focused on how we need to solve global issues and understand the people's need. So there were a lot of other campaigns like blood donation campaigns and adult literacy, which was something really important as literacy does not have any bar. So it was a lot of people out there and youth coming out forward to help not just peers their age but also people who were elder to them. So I believe that it just starts from a very early stage where you find a problem but you don't find solution to it. So while working and while being in the entrepreneurship as well as the activism journey and having being working with edtech startups and other companies, I just felt that we should adopt the design thinking approach, which is something where you solve the problems for the user. So everything is very user based. So I guess every one of us needs to adopt that design thinking approach where we are creating prototypes, where we are like being from a woman in STEM. I have always felt that a lot of brainstorming and ideation needs to go in to solve the solutions. So it's not just about STEM when we're talking about global issues and challenges. I really do believe that we need to come together and do some brainstorming and definitely adopt the design thinking approach so that it translates to activism and entrepreneurship in a very beautiful way.
No, absolutely. And I really love how you said that Gen Z is a generation that tries to create change for ourselves and tries to better the future, because I think ultimately that future that we're trying to better is our future. And like as we grow up, we want to see the world be better. How about you, Jalen? Do you have anything you would like to share?
For sure. For me, I have not always been like an entrepreneur. But I pretty much from my sophomore year of high school, I took this class called Business and Management, and I just thought it was for me to be able to create change myself rather than relying on others to do it, and not just creating like awareness in the community, but um, actually making something that will benefit others. And I thought that entrepreneurship was a great place for me. I started. I've been volunteering since I was probably in fifth grade, but it was never the same as like entrepreneurship, where you could um, like impact like the whole world, and impact so many more people than just your community.
No, absolutely. It's entrepreneurship is definitely such a great way to go beyond your community and perhaps at small reach and help affect the lives of so many people. That's amazing. So our next question is, could you guys name three things to express what activism feels like? So what is activism? Why do you guys decide to do activism? And how can you be an activist? You kind of addressed part of this question, but feel free to just unmute and just go after yourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could just I guess, use the same order as before. Um, in terms of what is activism, the way how I see it is activism is an individual who sees that there is a problem in their country and they're looking towards coming up with a solution or being a part of the solution with a number of other individuals. And then the second question of why activism. When I think of that, I think of why not activism? Why not be a part of something that can change and uplift the lives of people that you know and people that you don't know, than the people that are yet to be born? Because ultimately, when I think of the things happening in the United States as of right now, globally, where we're seeing a huge push for more women's equality, a big push for racial equality, and for races coming together in ways that we haven't quite before in our history, it comes with due part because of activism. And then third, how to become an activism. I see it as more simply as it's just becoming a part of, for some, an organization. The United Nations is a great one. A few of the panelists here are work with the United Nations committees, but also just being a part of your community, starting simply, sending an email to a local politician saying, how can I become more involved? Or this is a problem that I think we should try to solve. How can I be a part of this? And it's also equipping yourself with the knowledge necessary in order to tackle and hopefully come up with solutions to some of the problems that you may face in your area or some of the problems that we all face in the current United States.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of piggybacking on what he said is that, well, what is activism? Activism basically is looking for problems in your community, but seeing them as the opportunity and the space to create solutions for them. It's being a solution-based thinker and a solution-driven thinker. Instead of saying, oh my goodness, like there are so many problems in the world, someone should do something about that. No, you say, well, why not me? And why not now? I am somebody. And a lot of times people say, you know, my one vote doesn't matter. You know, it's a typical fill in the blank state, you know, so my one vote won't make a difference in the election or of whatever that may be. But the same can be said about activism. It does make an impact. If you have 1,000 people thinking like that, their one vote, that their one voice, that their one impact can't make a difference, it does. Because all of a sudden, those people can turn the tide. And the same is true, I believe, with activism. And so that kind of answers the second question of, well, why activism? Because why not activism? Exactly what Nick said, is because we need this. We are living in, simply put, an ever-changing world with a never-changing system. And that's where activists come in. And lastly, the question about how to be an activist, join organizations. Like, I agree with exactly what Nick said, is that join the United Nations, sometimes it's hard to know where to begin. So UNA USA is a good platform for that. If you live in the United States, that's a very great place. There's really no requirements to join, and there are a bunch of opportunities there. And joining other youth-led organizations with the same mission as yours, because so often people, they come up with an idea, right? And they think it's never been done before, but they decide to start their own organization, which, I mean, kudos to them, go for it. But I think it's better to join existing organizations, because we don't need 500 organizations all working towards the same goal. Instead, let's get all those people and together make that change. So if you're looking to become an activist, my personal organization, little self-promo here, friends, Entrepreneurship, we have ambassador programs for people who are interested in becoming an ambassador, interested in making a social impact in their specific area. We have about 75 ambassadors from like 24 countries, each working in their own individual way to reshape the way that we educate youth through using social entrepreneurship. And there are so many other platforms out there that have similar programs. If you're interested in entrepreneurship, come join us. If you're interested in STEM, join this organization, the Arch Homes Foundation. There are so many other organizations out there, and a quick Google, LinkedIn, or Instagram search will tell you everything that you need to know. So definitely utilize those resources to become the best version of an activist that you can be.
So just following up to what Naomi said, you know, I really agree with her points that it needs to be, it's really important to take that first step. So starting with what is activism, I really do think that, you know, activism is just the other form of being a global citizen. And when we're talking about global citizenship, it's not just about solving problems in one own areas, or maybe just solving problems where you belong from a certain background, and then you're just concerned to that particular parameters which you are associated with. I just believe that it's all about solving problems across the world and across communities, where it's going and sort of like you are overcoming all the parameters and differences which have been put. So it's like crossing all the socioeconomic as well as the geographical borders. So I believe that is activism, when you are going out and solving problems, taking out solutions, and not just considering yourself as a part of a certain community, but putting humanity first and then finding out a solution for certain things. So if you're seeing an issue around you, you are going ahead and solving it as being a community member of the whole humankind, not just of a particular background or a community in a smaller scale. Secondly, if I talk about why activism, then definitely, as Nick and Naomi mentioned, then why not activism? But what I believe is like why activism. I guess not all of us, we identify in our earlier stage of life, like I'm mentioning it again and again. But a lot of us are activists since our childhood. So when if we ever think that we are feeling hungry. So maybe when a toddler is feeling hungry, he or she tries to find out something to eat. And they're trying to find out a solution. So this problem solving skills is somehow naturally, it's there in our just working. So I really do believe that all of us are born activists. It's just time where we are not identifying our true potential sometimes, when we're not identifying that we are born activists and how we are problem solvers in a certain way. So definitely we know when we are struggling with our homeworks, when we are struggling with a certain thing, when we are struggling with maybe just anything in our day-to-day lives, we're always trying to find solutions. So I believe that every one of us is a born activist, and when we're trying to start solving our own solutions, and definitely when we're helping out, and maybe there are a bunch of kids who might want to have help in calculus and we are helping them out, I guess that's a form of activism. So I really do believe that it's how we are starting with activism, and then definitely it reaches out to different fields, and different forms of activism can be explored. But I really do believe when we start helping out ourselves first, that is the first form of activism. And then when we are reaching out to our classmates, our friends, our acquaintances, and then definitely increasing the geographical area of the people you're helping with. So that is definitely how activism comes through. So I guess it's definitely how we can put forward that activism is coming naturally in all of us in a certain way. Then moving forward, how to be an activist. Then, as I mentioned, just try to identify your true potential, identify that how you can create a certain change when you're given a situation. So I think that, since our school days, like it's not just something, sometimes activism or being an activist becomes a very overrated term, which I really want to defy at this point of time. So it's not just something where you're just doing a lot of things, or maybe joining a lot of organizations just to prove yourself you're an activist. An activist can start just by maybe finding out a solution in your own locality. Maybe you're thinking that there's a path where you're saying that the old people might not be able to cross that road. You ask the municipal corporation to build something, to maybe build an elevator or something like that. So that's just part of activism. You're finding solutions in your own region and your own locality. And definitely, as I would love to plug in that how the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals is a great opportunity to solve the global challenges. And a lot of people, they ask me when I'm working for these SDGs, and I'm passionate about it. Like, are we gonna achieve it by 2030? And I've always felt that that's a target which we are working for. But in the end, the journey is a very beautiful thing. So even if it might take time, let's just not make the target, or let's just not make the end point the absolute thing, or just not keep that on a pedestal. Working towards it. And when we're talking about SDGs, we're talking about poverty, we are talking about hunger, we are talking about gender equality, we are talking about education for all. And I believe all these issues are relatable for all of us, whether we live in US, UK, or any other country, or belong from any community. So I believe that when we are having a problem and it becomes relatable to all of us, then let's not just take it for our community, let's just take it by working for each and every human out there. So SDGs, and that is a beautiful step to start being an activist. Let's just figure out that how these 17 SDGs we can work on to. And I really believe that, when we'll start exploring them and how we can, like, if you're belonging from a medical background or an engineering background or even a law background, each and every one of us, if you just figure out and focus, all of us are working towards achieving the SDGs in some way or the other. So I believe the 17 SDGs are a great way to start being an activist. And definitely, that journey is really beautiful because you will start exploring a lot of resources, you will start exploring a lot of opportunities, and definitely help a lot of people when you are excelling in your own field as well as being an activist in your own way. So whatever profession you are in, whatever field you are in, I guess all of us can be an activist and do our part.
Yeah, and going off of what everyone else said, I think like we kind of like figure out like what is activism. But another reason why activism I think is um by engaging activism, you're not only helping others, but you're also educating yourself through the process, and you're kind of learning about the issues that matter, and you're learning more about the problem, and not just at its like base level, but in depth, like how you can how so you can so you can clearly know how to solve the problem, um, and so it's a process of learning for yourself and educating yourself, and while you're like being an activist as well. And then for the how to be an activist, uh, I know like people said before to um, see uh, see what you can do, like seek opportunities. But I would also add that use your previous interests that you already have. Like if you like already like are good, like if you're already like good at like video editing or something, like why not like create like awareness video for your community, or why not like do something that um you are already good at and use that in a way to be an activist. So for example, if you like coding, why not make like a website or an app related to the issue you're solving. And there's lots of ways to whatever you like to do. There's lots of ways to use that in a way that benefits your community.
Absolutely. I completely agree with what all you guys said. And I really love the phrase, why not be an activist? Because I genuinely feel like, kind of as Rita was saying, everyone kind of sees, and also Naomi, everyone sees problems in their lives and like issues around them. And being an activist is just essentially trying to find a solution to those issues around you. So I think that's a very important point you can make, and something everyone else can kind of take away is just that we can all just be activists. And if you see a problem, you can definitely try to think of a solution to that. So our next question is, how did you build your community?
Yeah, I guess I'll also start this one off. So for me, in my journey throughout the Edison Civic Change Collective and a number of organizations I've been a part of, it really started off with building a community through the schools. One thing that I really understood about the Edison, New Jersey community specifically is there's a lot of individuals that are eager to learn. Like many of the people on this call, maybe in high school or college or even younger than that. And there's that yearning for knowledge and that yearning for wanting to learn more about how they can be of assistance to others. And with that being said, seeing how you can build your community through your schools is a very important way towards having a really great organization of not just leaders that understand topics, but leaders that are always looking for new solutions to transform what your initiative is into the things that will be long lasting in your own community.
Yeah, so I'm going to take this question a little bit different way. So I have two communities when I think of communities. The first is that of me personally, like Naomi Porter support system, and then the next is more of my global entrepreneurship communities. And so my more personal communities include the Conversationalist, which is a global Gen Z community with about 10,000 members as we work to break open echo chambers, which are things basically that you keep hearing reiterated. So I'll give an example. I live in California, and so I'm mostly hearing similar political ideas, similar religious ideas, similar of what is and isn't right. But when you experience different opinions, all of a sudden your viewpoint might change. And so that's what that community is about, as well as I'm part of UNA USA, which is kind of, as we mentioned, a part of the United Nations, and 100, which is a youth ambassador program for education reform specifically. And then in terms of building entrepreneurship, originally it was just me and people within my small social circle of people who I knew, I had met before, I trusted, and I just had a very, very small core team. And then we got a lot of funding, and I went, oh shoot, we need more people. So let's build a team. And so just this summer, that's what I've been doing. And so I sent out emails, but very little social media presence. Entrepreneurship does not have a huge following. It's not something we've been working on, but we just put out the applications, and we went from a team of 10 to about 75, basically in about 2 months since August 1st. So whenever that was, a couple of days ago is when officially our membership closed, but we still have ambassador applications that are rolling. But it's just crazy, the power of social media and a couple of people's good experiences. And so if you're looking to create these communities, start small and make sure that those people's experiences are top quality so they continue to refer other ambassadors. You know, we want to make sure that everyone feels part of the team, that they feel heard. So that way when people ask, so what's it like working with entrepreneurship? They say it's a phenomenal experience and you should join too. Kind of this snowball idea effect. If everyone you touch and have an impact with feels that presence and feel like they want to continue it, that is how an organization grows. And that's what we really focused on. And that's how we went from a team of 10 to like 80 basically overnight.
So for me, it also started in school, and I was very active in extracurricular activities, and I wanted to create a community out there because I always felt that starts all at home. So I started with definitely with my friends, and then community members, and then students as a whole. So it started locally, but then eventually I also believe that when you're working in a local, like just in a local atmosphere, you have a certain opinions around people around you, around issues, and then that's really something where you're just keeping yourself in a box. So I just felt, and I always wanted to explore more things. I wanted to understand the issues. I wanted to solve problems, which was not just related to my locality or my region or even my country. And I wanted to explore things internationally. So for me, it started by blogging, and in grade 9, I started blogging on WordPress, and I believe that was a very beautiful journey of how I started of creating my own global community, where I'm now associated with a lot of mentors, a lot of students, and I made a lot of friends internationally, and even having support systems, which is helping me right now to it'll help in my entrepreneurship journey. So the thing is, I started my blogging, and I wrote about different issues of how we can solve them, of just day-to-day things which were relatable to the communities, and a lot of people reached out to me. So I always feel that if you're like you want to create a community and you don't know where to start with, I guess it's always great that you go and write something, because you have a lot of things to say but you don't know where to say, or maybe don't have a perfect audience to go forward and speak to them. So for me, it blogging happened, and that was definitely the starting of how my community building thing happened. A lot of people reached out to me, they appreciated my work, and they wanted to collaborate with me. And that was a really beautiful feeling, because when a lot of people are brainstorming, you have a lot of ideas. And being a woman in STEM, I've always felt that more number of people will actually give you a lot of ideas, and that actually creates a better solution. Considering only a one person working for a certain problem, then I was also selected in the New York Academy of Sciences. So that is an international organization which is based in New York, USA, and that was definitely really good to me. And I met a lot of people. I worked with into teams, and the main thing which I always was, passionate about was solving global challenges, and that is something I did through STEM. So I got into three of the big programs, and there were also mentorship programs. So whenever I feel about community building, I guess it's also important that when you're reaching out to people, you just forget that what color, what race, what age they're gonna be. Because I have made friends, I have made connections who are maybe 10 years old or maybe even 50 years old. So I guess that's really wonderful when you're reaching out to a lot of people, and mentorship is really important. So I've always felt that when you're creating a community and when you're starting to build a community, it's also important to not just connect to people your age, but also to people who are elder to you. And for me, mentorship worked, and I thankfully got the support of a lot of mentors which were based internationally, and through the programs like the New York Academy of Sciences, it actually helped me to have a lot of opinions, and I actually created a lot of my mindset changed towards definitely a lot of issues, and I was having opinions out of the box. So mentorship was really important in my community building, and therefore I understood the importance of reaching out to people. So in this case, LinkedIn worked for me, and I made a profile in LinkedIn when I was in grade 10, and it was just definitely a very basic profile then, but it was just starting out and putting out whatever I had done till then out there. And coffee chats worked out for me. I did coffee chats. I did cold emailing to people, to mentors who I wanted to work with or collaborate with, or maybe I have read the resources somewhere. So I've always felt that when you're creating a community and you're building your community, it's good to reach out to people where you just feel hitched with, and you just feel that you won't be able to talk to them, or you don't have anything to talk to them. So I've always felt that appreciate someone, because I believe that love comes naturally, and hatred is taught. So a lot of times we have stereotypes, we become judgmental towards a lot of things. And but I wanted to break that, because I personally have felt that by a lot of people, and I know that how it feels when you just stereotype someone based off the preconceived notions you are having in your mind. So I started reaching out to people whenever I read someone's work, whenever I saw someone's profile, or whenever I just saw them somewhere doing something great, any project which really touched my heart. I used to reach out to people. I used to go, and appreciate them, and that actually created a lot of good connections for me, and that community building really happened. And then I was also, and I'm still voluntarily working for Girls in Science for SDGs, which is under the Royal Academy of Science International Trust, which is also based in US. So these were all remote programs which I did, and it was really great to start building my community. Just being in the comforts of my home. So like it all happened pre-COVID, and remote working was really going out great for me. But still, being a part of a lot of organizations, I definitely not just explore STEM but also non-STEM areas. So being open to a lot of ideas actually helped me create my community in different countries, and that is why all the opportunities also come into you naturally. So I guess that everything, it just went into flow. And definitely it's really great. Like, if you I would mention again, if you're in the starting phase of your community building, go and find a mentor, because the mentor has a lot of experience and they'll help you out and pave way. Otherwise, if you're just taking out time to make mistakes, it will take a lot of time from your journey, and you will not be able to concentrate on major things. So I guess finding out mentors is really great when you're starting your community building things. So right as of now, I'm like part of a lot of different opportunities. I also organize at now video campaigns for different social issues. I organized a video campaign for adult literacy, as well as when the COVID happened. So Spain was going through a very tough time at that point of time, and then I held out my friends, and I created a video campaign for the nurses in Spain. And opportunities projects, when you're collaborating with people across the, the globe, you feel a sense of humanity first. So I guess that really worked out for me. And those video campaigns were not just a thing to support someone. It was a lot of people voicing their opinions, a lot of people supporting from the comforts of their home, and feeling that they have done their bit as a human, as an activist. As I mentioned, everybody is a born activist. So this was definitely a start where I started collaborating and doing projects with people across the globe. So collaboration is definitely the key to great networking, and that helped me to build my community across nations.
Yes, those are great points. All of you, Naomi, Nick, and Rita. And I would also add like that when we think about building our community, we might think that a lot of people might think that building means that you have to really have a lot of people and a lot of um, they a lot of people value quantity over quality, and I really think we should value quality over quantity, because the people that you want in your community are people that are actually passionate, are actually interested in the issue that you're solving. And to be able to get those people, to be able to like recognize those people, you got to ask yourself if you're actually putting yourself out, if you're putting yourself out there, if you're if you have a good presence um, in online and on different platforms, if you are building a personal brand for yourself, of not only your strengths but also your weaknesses or flaws, or any or things that you've overcome, because I know that for some people, like not knowing English, it can be, they see it as a weakness, but it can actually be an opportunity for you to show your diverse perspectives. And I think including that in your personal brand is a really great way to show people, what you can do, and you know, and how they can join you in your efforts. And what they can bring to your community. And it's not just about it's not just about um, you know people you reaching out to people, but it's also about people reaching out to you, and people and valuing their ideas, valuing their opinions, valuing their voice, and listening to what they have to say. And you don't always have to agree or always have to implement that thing, but you definitely got to listen and it um, consider it to see if it's something that everybody agrees with. So those are just some of my some of the ways that I have built built my community, and how you can build yours.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think school is definitely a great way to start, or your personal friends and family, and genuinely just finding people that who have interests and views that kind of align with yours. I mean, obviously, you don't be with you need diverse people as well. But yeah, I think that's absolutely so important. And I love how Rita mentioned that she really helped develop her community by reaching out to a bunch of people, making those cold calls whenever she saw something interesting, just reaching out to that person. Because I think that's something a lot of people are hesitant to do, but genuinely, there's a lot of reward if you're willing to take that first step. And genuinely, I feel like a lot of people are pretty receptive. So, moving on to our next question. How do you manage your academic and family obligations as well as activism?
I know for me, the way that I manage activism and also keeping up with academics and family obligations comes down to scheduling, understanding what truly is important, and understanding how to balance your time that way. I know like many of the people in this call possibly use Google Calendar or maybe even use Apple Calendar. And for me, it comes down to knowing that my family, of course, always comes first in anything, and understanding that sometimes when it comes to different projects for activism, that you could wait to do it the next day. That being patient is better than trying to do a poor job of the work that you're doing. It's better to give it the most dedication you can so that you can perfect it and hopefully help others along the way.
Yeah, honestly, time management is key. I mean, it's even in the question, manage, i.e., management. I think a couple of things that work for me. One, prioritizing my mental health, and I think that's something that's so definitely stigmatized in our society in the sense of, you have to take thousands of AP classes if you're from the United States to be successful. You have to have a 4.0 GPA, wake up at the crack of dawn, kind of, you know, stretch yourself to these unreasonable and honestly inhumane limits. And I see it in my school. I'm going to be a junior next year, and everyone is taking 4 or 5 AP classes, and here I am taking 2. Does that invalidate me? I certainly don't think so, but I'm prioritizing my time so that way I can take half the course load, but still learn for the sake of gasp learning, friends, like not just learning because I need to fill a box, but I'm taking the rigor that's right for me. I'm going to be taking environmental science because I'm interested in how that relates to our society. And I'm going to be taking AP Lang because I want to become a better writer and a better public speaker. And so I'm taking the rigor that matters to me and I'm leaving the rest behind. And so that's kind of how I manage academic. And then in terms of family obligations, agreeing with Nick, family comes first. If it's my sibling's birthday, if I have a family, memorial or anything like that, church, that goes first. And if that means I have to say no to opportunities, so be it, because family is what rejuvenates me and what brings me life. Rita, on to you.
Yeah, so I truly second with what Nick and Naomi have said, that definitely family comes first. And so for me, how do I manage my study schedule as well as other obligations is definitely, I used to make my to-do list every day, and it feels, great, that like feels great at the end of the day when you're having contentment, when you're ticking off the boxes and the things which you have done. So I used to make my, a list of tasks which I have to do for the day, and by creating a schedule, it really worked out for me, and I try to, balance my work as well as of my other obligations which I had. So I really do believe that it's all about prioritizing what is important. And a lot of times I have struggled with it definitely. And time management was an issue when I just started. And a lot of people really do believe, as Naomi mentioned, that maybe it's like taking 2 AP classes, it doesn't make the other person maybe better or something. It's just like how you are feeling about yourself. And definitely when I started activism and when I like explored other opportunities with something maybe the other students weren't doing, a lot of people made me feel that it wasn't something which was needed, and everybody wanted me to be a regular student. But definitely my family supported in that, and my own personal community supported in that. And I've always felt that it was important to take care of my mental health first and just understand that all the things which I was doing was definitely giving me happiness. So if something is giving you happiness and if it's giving you contentment, I really believe that it's important to continue into that. And therefore I always felt that grades and other stuff and tests, all these things don't matter after a certain period of time. Why is that so? Because when you're working and you're going to a certain place and we're working out professionally, a lot of times people don't get the job or maybe they get fired just because they don't have emotional quotient. So I've always felt that soft skills sometimes plays a larger role than hard skills. And therefore I was always like hell bent towards building my personal skills, my soft skills, my emotional quotient, and increasing my emotional quotient, and managed academics with that. So I guess that this is how I always felt, that there has to be a pretty good balance between both of them, and not just focusing on the academics or just the regular student life. And yeah, obligations, I also always made my schedule in such a way that my work meetings doesn't schedule, or my meetings with my groups or my teams which I'm working with for a certain issue or any community thing which I'm working on does not it does not clash with my family obligations. So it was always like a lot of managing and scheduling, but thankfully it becomes a struggle definitely sometimes. But with the passage of time it just comes into your like how do you live your life. But definitely like mental health has been my priority. So whenever I just felt that things weren't working out, I used to cancel my appointments or my meetings, and I used to take a break, rejuvenate with my friends and family. And I guess that's something which should be needed. And like small breaks should always be there in your schedule so that you don't burn yourself in your journey of entrepreneurship or activism or whatever you're pursuing in. So I have always felt that there was a need to take breaks, rejuvenate myself, and then create a better version for me, and definitely follow my passion and just not sometimes feel demotivated for what I'm doing and feel like boosted with energy to start everything with more energy and optimism.
Yes, definitely. And like Naomi mentioned, it's you like we like Gen Z have a kind of struggle of like saying yes to everything. And actually, I think it's important to not say yes to everything and just focus on what you can handle and what where your priorities lie. And once we and that has to in order to do that, you have to figure out what your priorities are. And I think that's one of the best ways you can manage your responsibilities, manage what comes first is first listing what are your priorities, and what do you want to achieve, and who do you want to like uh, what do you want to leave on this world. And I think when you find out that, then you'll know what to say yes to and what to say no to. And activism definitely takes time, so you can't just say that it's just gonna be it's not gonna interfere with my academic or family obligations. You gotta understand that you know it will, and you just have to manage. Um, you have to figure out ways to manage that with the ways that we all mentioned, but as well as delegating to others, because like we think like we have to do everything ourselves, but but it's important to learn to delegate to others as well. And this is something that I've been having trouble with, like, because I spend a lot of time myself doing um, everything for my nonprofits, but a lot of time I need to take a step back and reevaluate, my responsibilities and everyone else's, and then see what I can do to um, help others, and see what I can do to uh, divide up the tasks between everyone, rather than just myself. And so, yeah, I would do that um, in order to not risk your obligations, like academic, um, grades and whatnot, um, when you're doing activism.
I absolutely agree with all of your guys' perspective. I think it is definitely really important to manage your schedule, and using apps uh, like Google Calendar and stuff can help. And like it's very important to take a mental break, as Naomi said and Rita said. I think a lot of people tend to push themselves to try to achieve, achieve something. And obviously that's very important, but it's also very important to prioritize yourself. And yeah, as Jalen said, one way you can do that is by delegating your work instead of doing it all by yourself.